everyone. Welcome to Business Daily. I'm Lee-Ji-yoon in Seoul. We have a lot of stories lined up for you today, so let's get started with a look at today's highlights. The number of non-regular workers who find themselves particularly more exposed to unfair treatment without any protection is on the rise. What could be done to better protect them? U.S. President Donald Trump plans to sign an executive order to undo former President Barack Obama's plan to curb global warming. We have these stories and more coming right up. Korea's acting President Hwang KyoAhn has pledged to expand funds for startups as part of an effort to foster the startup boom in the country. During a ministerial meeting at the Central Government Complex in Seoul on Monday, Hwang said the government will provide tailored assistance to startups, including legal counseling at each stage of growth. Now, the goal is to help startups enter overseas markets and do business with foreign startups. The funds will be distributed to universities where many of Korea's ventures originate and then will be allocated to promising candidates. He added the government plans to hold startup contests in the first half of this year to stimulate entrepreneurship and creative thinking. Korea's exports to its free trade agreement partners jumped over 16% in the first 2 months of this year compared to the same time last year. That puts the combined outbound shipments to the 52 countries at about $59.7 billion, according to Korea Customs Service. In terms of the utilization rate of the trade pacts for exports, it was slightly up from last year at 63%. The bilateral trade agreement with Canada was put to the most use at about 92%, followed by that of Peru and the United States. For China, Korea's largest trading partner, the utilization rate was at 42% as of February, up more than 8 percentage points from the end of last year. Firms exporting automobile-related products like machinery and plastics or rubber were most active in using the trade deals. The combined value of land assets owned by listed companies of Korea's 10 largest conglomerates hit a record high as of the end of last year. The figure stood at over $66 billion, and local corporate tracker 짚어본다 says that's up nearly 3% from the end of 2015. Hyundai Motor Group holds the largest amount of land assets, worth some $21 billion, after it paid a record $10 billion for the site of its new headquarters in southern Seoul. Samsung was the second largest, followed by Lotte Group. Out of the 6.4 million non-regular workers here in Korea, nearly 8% of them are categorized as special type employees, or workers who don't meet the requirements of laborers as defined by the law. Now, with no social safety net to protect them, there are growing calls to defend their rights. Our Lee Ju-young has this report.
Special type employees. With their jobs being categorized as non-regular, they are laborers that are not protected under employment laws in Korea. The number of these workers, which include chauffeurs, home tutors, and caddies, have reached nearly 500,000 as of 2016, roughly 7.7% of all non-regular workers in the nation, prompting growing calls to establish laws protecting them. Take into account unofficial figures, and the numbers are set to reach as high as 2.5 million. According to a joint report by the Labor Ministry and Korea Labor Institute, the percentage of non-regular workers covered by 4 major insurances is paltry. Those who were offered national pension as well as employment and medical insurances did not even reach 5%. There were also cases in which employers have exploited these workers by abusing legal loopholes. Seoul Labor Center says over half of the complaints registered in 2015 were regarding overdue pay, followed by issues regarding severance and layoffs. While there was some movement 4 years ago to initiate laws protecting special-type workers, it soon lost momentum. But organizations like Korea Labor and Society Institute are still advocating for the lawful protection of these vulnerable workers, as they are required to abide by company regulations just like any other employee. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
The Boao Forum for Asia has officially drawn to a close in China's Hainan province. Its declaration rejected deglobalization and instead called for dialogue and cooperation across the Asian region. The annual forum, which took place Thursday through Sunday, hosted hundreds of lectures covering everything from monetary policy, supply-side structural reform to medical reform. The forum's vice chairman Hwang KyoAhn argued against wrongly attributing problems stemming from structural issues to globalization, warning protectionism could disrupt global growth. Chinese media said some 1,800 attendees took part in the Boao Forum. The declaration called on Asian nations to remain committed to open markets, as it asked global institutions to actively adapt to the forces of economic globalization. Chinese industrial companies logged a solid profit surge in the first 2 months of this year, thanks to strengthening commodities prices and a pickup in import activity. China's National Bureau of Statistics said on Monday their total profits for the January through February period exceeded 1 trillion yuan, which is about $147 billion. Now, that represents a surge of more than 31% year-on-year compared to a 2.3% uptick in December. This came as the prices of coal, steel, and crude oil rose faster, according to a note by a Statistics Bureau official. The Bureau issues combined data for the January through February period to avoid distortions from the Lunar New Year holidays, when most companies are closed. The Korean market showed a rough start on the first session of the week. The impact of market headwinds from overseas was felt right here in the Korean market. We're now joined by our markets contributor Choi Jin-seok to talk about overall stock market performance and upcoming market events. Hello, Jin-seok.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so how did the Korean stock market close on the first day of the week?
Both the Kospi and the Kosdaq market were relatively sluggish on the first session of the week. The Kospi plummeted by 0.61% to close at 2155.66, while the Kosdaq was mostly flat, closing at 607, down by 0.1%. There were quite a number of negative factors that affected sentiment on the Kospi market. First, U.S. President Donald Trump and the Republican Party failed to pass the American Health Care Act, also known as the Trump Care Bill, last week. Second, there have recently been a number of reports projecting sharp declines in global oil prices. Lastly, the U.S. stock market seems to have reversed its positive trend more recently. One of the positive things about today's session was that foreign investors shifted their position from sell to buy during the session, despite all those headwinds. Most blue-chip stocks were down on the Kospi market, and Hyundai Motor Group shares suffered losses after the company's announcement of a temporary shutdown of its fourth Chinese factory.
All right, then what are some of the market events lined up for this week? I mean, it looks like that we have a lot of economic data coming out this week.
Right, and most of it will come from the U.S., the largest economy of the world. We'll have the S&P Case-Shiller Housing Price Index and Consumer Confidence on Tuesday local time. And on Thursday, the final report on America's Q4 GDP growth will be unveiled. On Friday, we'll have personal income spending and the PCE index, which is important inflation data that the Federal Reserve closely watches. Other than economic data, investors are expected to pay a lot of attention to Fed officials who deliver speeches. The list includes Fed Chair Janet Yellen on Tuesday and many other regional Fed presidents. Investors expect they will give hints on future monetary policy directions after the Fed raised its interest rate of the latest FOMC meeting.
Now, Samsung Electronics continues to draw a lot of attention from investors, and we have an important event lined up for this week for that, right?
That's right. Samsung Electronics will unveil its new latest flagship smartphone models, the Galaxy S8 and Galaxy S8 Plus, on March 29 in New York. It will be the company's first major launch since the Galaxy Note 7 that last year when Samsung pulled the smartphone from store shelves after 2 recalls related to faulty batteries. CNBC said a refined design, a new assistant application, pricing and release data of new models are the factors that experts are going to watch through the upcoming unpacking event. We're expecting two different models of the Galaxy S8, including a standard size model with a 5.7-inch display and a larger screen, Galaxy S8 Plus with a 6.2-inch screen. Since Korea's largest company by market cap and in the technology sector has this upcoming event, experts believe that the share prices of IT companies and component makers in particular might move in a dramatic way throughout the week.
Now, risks and uncertainties surrounding the Trump administration over in the U.S. seems to be some of the factors affecting market sentiment as well. Can you elaborate on this?
Right. U.S. House Speaker Paul Ryan said Republicans pulled their health care bill on Friday as they failed to collect enough support for it. The event for global markets was a big disappointment because investors had believed the passage of the bill could raise visibility of President Trump's market-friendly policies, including tax reforms. As a result, uncertainty surrounding the Trump administration might be raised again going forward. Meanwhile, many experts say it's too early to be too pessimistic. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin also said that the administration will keep its plan to pass bills for comprehensive tax reforms before August. The U.S. equity market and the value of the U.S. dollar rebounded accordingly.
Now, as you just mentioned, the value of the dollar and the overall foreign exchange market are expected to continue to draw investor attention, right?
Exactly. The weakening dollar is another factor sending mixed signals to the market. After the March FOMC meeting, the dollar index, which measures the value of the U.S. dollar against major foreign currencies, fell below 100, and more experts project further depreciation of the currency going forward. Typically, dollar depreciation along with won appreciation serve as a positive catalyst to the market. However, investors will need to keep a close eye on the FX market in the near term to see how rapidly this trend moves forward. Most importantly, investors will need to see how changing currency values affect foreigners' investment position. Although both retail investors and institutions unloaded shares on the Kospi market, foreigners have bought 5.3 trillion Korean won worth of stocks this year.
All right, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
The head of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency says that U.S. President Donald Trump is set to sign a new executive order to remove environmental protections put in place by the former Obama administration. Our Noaram has more.
Speaking to a U.S. media outlet on Sunday, EPA Chief Scott Pruitt said the executive order will be signed on Tuesday and will undo Obama's Clean Power Plan, which regulates emissions from coal power plants. Pruitt said the intention of the order was to bring back coal mining jobs and reduce the cost of electricity. Democratic-led states and environmental groups argue the Clean Power Plan would spur thousands of clean energy jobs and help the U.S. meet ambitious goals set by the 2015 Paris Agreement. But it has also been on hold since last year, while a federal court deliberates on appeals made by coal-friendly Republican-led states and more than 100 companies. Pruitt also slammed the landmark Paris Agreement as a bad deal, saying it went too easy on China and India. President Trump and Pruitt have long denied the existence of climate change, and the EPA chief has previously sued the organization that he runs more than a dozen times. Noaram, Business Daily.
China's ban on group tour sales to Korea is said to be working at a 100% success rate, with 0 group tour visas being applied for since Beijing's ban came into effect earlier this month. According to sources in China, not a single application has been registered since March 15th, when all group tour sales to Korea were banned by the Chinese government, as a means of retaliation against Seoul's stationing of a U.S. missile defense system THAAD. The number of visa applications for individual Chinese tourists has also halved over the past 12 days. Meanwhile, many Korean tourists are canceling trips to China amid the rising anti-Korean sentiment in the country. A local travel agency says up to 70% of their customers who had booked tours to China withdrew their reservations, citing concerns about the situation. And China is continuing its apparent economic retaliation against Korea. And this comes as it perceives that on Korean soil as a threat against Beijing's national security. Korean duty-free stores run by Lotte Group have been hit hard with a drastic dip in Chinese shoppers. So they're stepping up efforts to attract more Japanese tourists. On Sunday, the retail giant said it held travel fairs throughout Japan, introducing tour packages to Korea. During the first weekend after China's ban on Korea-bound group tours took effect, Lotte Duty Free saw its sales fall 30% from the same period a year earlier. More of Korea's commercial banks are offering digitalized services that make running errands faster and easier. This as the country's financial regulator is looking to cut paper use dramatically within the next few years. Our Eunice Kim has the story.
Where paper once was, a tablet is. Opening a new account or an installment savings account typically calls for form after form of signatures. But now, at Shinhan Bank's new digital windows, all signatures are taken electronically. Because there's no need to type in the data, tellers' busy work has been cut down as well.
Both our customers and employees highly appreciate the efficiency and faster service this allows. We also expect it will help increase our profitability as our digital strategy leads to cost reduction.
At this Uri Bank, a customer can get a new bank book or debit card and sign up for various financial products after work hours at this digital service box. Identity verification is conducted via biometrics like iris and fingerprint scans. Digitalized banking services are expanding as more users opt for them over face-to-face teller service. As a matter of fact, 4 of Korea's 5 major commercial banks have been closing more bank branches over the years, albeit at a different pace. Some are mulling over charging for teller service as the government also pushes to cut paper use by eliminating the use of paper bank books in phases. But they're also keeping in mind service for elderly customers.
We will be mindful of customers who may find it more difficult to adopt the digital option.
The Financial Supervisory Service aims to start monetizing paper bank books starting September of 2020. As both the public and private sectors move forward to a digital future, they are also cognizant of their social responsibilities for the greater public good. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
We often associate colors with certain ideas or feelings. For example, when we think of red, words like passion and love may come to mind. The color blue is often used to symbolize trust and confidence, while green symbolizes nature and peace. And the psychology of color affects branding as well, which marketers use to influence consumers. Take a look.
This brand is a cosmetics company offering makeup products. Color is an integral part of the company's business. Since 2015, the brand has collaborated with US-based color creation think tank Pantone to unveil a new line of makeup inspired by Pantone's Color of the Year.
Our greenery collection includes a range of products from cushion makeup-based compact, eyeshadow, blusher, mist, diffuser to perfume.
This year, the color is greenery, a fresh and zesty yellow-green shade. Trendy shoppers show great interest in the new products.
I've always thought green was a hard colour to wear, but after listening to the explanation, I'd like to try it for an everyday look.
Thanks to its Pantone collections, the cosmetics brand has seen a rise in both sales and popularity. Every year since 2000, Pantone has chosen a new trendy color that would be named Color of the Year with reasons for its decision. Pantone selection is used to help minimize risk in color-sensitive industries such as cosmetics. This year's color, greenery, also comes with psychological and social meanings.
And people feel they need a place to go, to be able to unwind, to perhaps take a deep breath and oxygenate, as we call it, to get away from the stresses of everyday life. And this was one of the big reasons why we chose the Pantone color of the year called greenery.
Every year, Pantone's pick becomes the talk of the town in social media, and companies use it as a guide for marketing and designs.
Women now have immediate access to trends via social media. In particular, those who are sensitive to trending colors tend to look for those colors at stores. So retailers start implementing Pantone's color of the year for the visual merchandising of a store.
Another area that is sensitive to color is interior design. This paint company has also partnered up with Pantone to launch new colors. The company is well known for its automatic color mixing system that mixes color to a customer's specification. How much does the Pantone color affect the company's sales?
Greenery is the color of the year, and I wanted to add a fresh look to the room. It's also spring now, so I decided on the color.
About 60% of our customers mix different paints to create a color they want. Among the remaining 40%, about 30% specifically look for Pantone's color of the year.
Large companies are not the only ones affected by Pantone's color choice. Greenery has already found its place among furniture design and accessories in this small furniture building studio in Incheon. It's a small shop that caters to the community it is in, but the owner always stays up to date with the latest trends to offer improved customer service.
Using a single colour for the entire house can be boring. Now that it's spring, it may be a good idea to use greenery as a highlight for a table or a chair in your child's room.
Designers from different industries, including cosmetics, interior design, and furniture, incorporate the color of the year into their projects to keep up with the trend. However, some worry the concept might be turning into a marketing gimmick and stress the need for long-term color marketing strategies.
Companies can strengthen the value of their brands by having a lot of consumers recognize their own colors. The use of color marketing is good, but companies should place more emphasis on creating their own colors.
Color is used in marketing to establish identity and engage customers. The color of the year has become a force to reckon with, affecting product development in multiple industries. Despite the ongoing debate on whether or not it is a marketing gimmick, it is certainly influencing purchasing decisions.
And that wraps it up for today, but we'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Korea time with more of the day's top business stories, so don't forget to tune in then. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.